shi baba oh, oh shi baba, baba baba shi baba oh.
Welcome to another edition of Soul to Soul, coming to you from a different bookless community center in Toronto, a project between that bookstore and community center and the African Food Basket. Tonight, I'm your host, Clifton Joseph, and tonight we have Joe G. Thomas, man, a former licensed massage therapist, a vegan, and a lifelong student of nutrition and fitness. He's a key member of the Toronto-based Black Vegans of Toronto, a support group that are vegetarian, vegan, and raw foodies who, among other things, conduct a monthly workshop on how to live a plant-based vegan lifestyle. They have a big project coming up this next planting season with the Brandon Street Community Toronto Black Vegan Farm outside of Alliston, Ontario. I want to talk to him about that. That's going to be a big thing happening. His recent book is Let Food Be Your Medicine Today. Live healthy and strong on a plant-based whole foods. Here it is. Joe, welcome
Thank
to
you.
the
Thank
show,
you,
man.
Clifton.
It's always a pleasure to see you, man, around town. I saw you before, because you were in Toronto way before, went to Florida, came back here, and you've been doing your thing. You've been in real estate, massage therapy. You're doing a whole bunch of things. Welcome back to the town, and congratulations to the book, too.
Thank you.
But I want to talk about, first of all, man, is that your recent Toronto Black Vegan Festival at the Oakwood Village Barns in Toronto, Sunday gone. I saw some of the clips. I was out of town, couldn't check it out, but I was really impressed the amount of people there. I couldn't even believe the numbers. Saw you on TV, too. You must be really pumped and proud of all of the work you put into this. And were you a bit surprised, though? Tell us about what happened there on Sunday. How many people were there, how many booths were there, and how you saw it yourself.
Well, I wasn't totally surprised because I saw it coming in the past few weeks. Tickets were just, in the first 2 weeks, we put out about 800 tickets and they went.
800 tickets.
Yeah, they just
You know how many
went.
promoters and producers around this town are salivating at them numbers?
Yeah, the tickets went in no time. We put out another set and those went very quickly too. Because of the restrictions of the Artscape, which were bans, we had to cut it off because
Yeah, you don't want to get into over.
yeah, we didn't want to be
overstepping the
overcrowded and
numbers.
have them shut us down.
Absolutely not.
But it turned out that we could have let more people in because of the flow. But still, I was quite heartened to see so many people come out to an event like that. You know, it was a vegan event, no meat. You know, it was a straight. All the vendors, the rules were very clear. You have no animal products, no dairy products, no eggs. Nothing like that should be.
You went hardcore vegan,
Yeah,
so them vegetarians had to step off.
Well, vegetarians came, but they came for vegan food.
No dairy or nothing for y'all.
Exactly.
That one, no eggs
exactly.
and stuff.
And that's what we are about right now. We have a strong vegan group, and I'm sure a lot of people who came to the event were not vegans, but they came and they enjoyed the food because unless you really try it, you wouldn't know that vegan food, particularly vegan food in our community, is just as tasty, just as more nutritious than what than the plantation food that we normally eat.
Yeah, because flesh eaters like me sometimes think that, you say vegan and say, where the meat there?
Yeah.
Chicken, you have a
Yeah,
chicken
and
or
there's a
something?
stereotype, there's a belief that anytime you say vegan,
Bland.
it's bland, it's food that doesn't taste great. that you have to put a lot of salt or something on it to make it taste good.
True. Or if you go to a lot of West Indian restaurants and where they ask you want oxtail gravy with that, and you say you're vegetarian.
Yes.
You say you're vegetarian, and you know what they bring you? A slice of iceberg lettuce and 2 slices of tomato.
Well, I've had that experience when I started off 43 years ago, when I switched to plant-based. And I would go to big dinners and banquets, and there was no provision for people like me in those days. I would end up people eating all their fine, whatever it is, and I would have a big bowl of salad. So I got smart very quickly. I started eating before I left home.
I
to go
thought
to
you were going to
these
say
events.
you walk with your own food.
No, before I left home, I would make sure I ate well. And when I got to these events, some black tie events too, I would sip some wine and have conversation while people are eating their
Skip the meal.
their
Skip the
meat.
dishes.
Yeah.
Well, back to the big event that just went by, right? How many people were there, and what were some of the companies that were there that you want to highlight in terms of a variety and a diversity? Because it's not just restaurants, right? It's
No,
not
we
just...
didn't have any restaurants.
Oh, you're joking?
We didn't have. The idea was to have a place where small entrepreneurs in the black vegan community could showcase their stuff, could sell their stuff, and that was my idea, to do it that way. So they were all small businesses.
Give me a rundown of who they are, who are they, and what they specialize in.
Well, we had Lady Hummingbird.
Love that name. She from TNT?
Yes.
National bird of the Trinidad
Yeah.
and Tobago, somebody.
Yeah, Lady Hummingbird Culinary Arts. She had a really nice spread of different types of food. We had Carrot Bubble.
Hold on.
They do bubble tea
Bubble tea?
with Caribbean flavors. They had
Like what? Like
sorrel,
oh gosh.
yeah,
I love me some
soursop. I mean, it was really, really nice.
Some mabi.
And by the way, all the vendors who had food there, almost every single one of them sold out.
I'm telling you, it must be like it's a real festival because all them people need to eat some
Yeah,
food.
there's a patty vendor, and she brought 220 patties, and she was sold out at 4 o'clock.
They went like hotcakes.
She was sold out at 4 o'clock. And I warned them, I sent out a note to all, when I looked at the response that I was getting, I sent a note to all the food vendors especially, telling them, make sure you bring as much food as you can because people are coming to eat. And that is what happened. The setup, as you saw in the pictures, the setup was a cafe style. We had the vendors, so you get your food and then you go sit there. I had a little bar. I discovered that vegans don't really drink that much. I had beer and wine, organic wine, and some organic beer too. So the setting was nice and comfortable, and of course, as an old DJ, I had the music.
Of course, you got to have some music, man.
Yeah, but I'm a little tired from the event, but
of course.
it was wonderful.
So you mentioned Hummingbird. That's our sister Amina
Yes,
Alfred.
Amina Alfred, yeah.
So run down some more lists, Joe. You've been so chintzy with the whole thing,
Well,
man. Give me some names of some people who got some stores and some business going and some diversity within the whole rubric of veganism, man.
Well, to give you a whole long list, I'll have to have the list in front of me. But there's a wide variety. There's a wide variety of there's some Ethiopian food. African Food Basket had their thing there too. They were selling some Caribbean
African
food.
Food Basket, they're all over the place, man. I'm telling you, they clone themselves. It look like sometimes.
Well, they have to be because it's needed. There were a couple other people doing. Well, there were about 3 or 4 of the vendors who were doing the body butters and that sort of stuff.
The what?
Body butters, like shea butter
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's just the way it's said. Can you
Yeah,
say
I
that
know.
fast 3 times in a row?
Yeah, I know. It's my accent.
So it must have really energized you and the whole crew at the Black Vegan of Toronto. What plans then for the next year, the next one?
Well, the next one is going to be in September. I already have that
Oh, you
date.
ain't wasting no time.
No,
It's not even annual. It's the like
I did that.
triannual.
Yeah, I did that before. This is going to be our fall harvest at the same place, but this time it's going to be indoor and outdoor. So we'd be able to accommodate more people. We wouldn't have to cut off,
See,
you know.
see.
And it's going to be tied in with our farm produce. So we'd be actually selling fresh produce from the farm.
Nice. You got your own market.
Yes, exactly.
Nice, nice.
Exactly.
Nice.
And we could encourage, since Sunday, I've had several other vendors call me and want to know when is the next one. They want to come in because they saw the response. So it's going to be much bigger.
You're striking while the iron is hot right now with all of that interest and that popularity right now.
And it's not so much more the business, it's just the opportunity to spread the word about veganism and more accurately, plant-based eating, which is what we should be doing. Because as I've said that several times, my research with my book showed me that we as black people, we are the leading, we lead in all the major diseases. You know, it's per
Colon
capita,
cancer, diabetes.
you name it.
You name it. Breast
You name
cancer in the
it.
case of women, fibroids.
Yeah, and nothing is being done on an official government or even community level. You know, we have all the talk about Black Lives Matter and all that sort of stuff, but we're killing ourselves with what we eat. You know, nobody's killing us. We're killing ourselves by eating a lot of the stuff that's just there. Anywhere you turn, there's something for you to eat. And we do it unconsciously. We just eat unconsciously, and we have to start eating consciously. You know, so while, yes, there's the popularity and the economic benefit of expanding this thing, my major concern is that we need to start looking at what we eat, thinking of what we eat, and not just for us, but for children too.
Yeah, because longevity and legacy in this case here too. I know you want to talk a lot about the farm that you're going to be operating outside of Alliston, the Brendan Street Community Farm up there, and also about the historical background of black folks' soul food, and why are we still eating, as you said in a provocative article a while ago, that why are you still eating slave plantation food?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Soul food.
Yeah, where do you want to start? You want to start with the plantation?
No. I want to start at veganism and vegetarianism, because they both don't eat meat. But in the case of vegans don't eat, because some vegetarians will eat dairy products, and some eggs and that kind of stuff. But vegans have nothing to do at all with flesh eating. You don't eat nothing that have eyes or mouth or lips and so on.
Nothing with a mother or a face.
Okay, true. Because, you know, a guy said to me the other day, I said to them, you know, this guy was giving me this argument, but why should food have, he don't want to eat no food, they have eyes and nose and so on.
Yeah.
And he said to me, that's why we cut their necks off.
Yeah.
So the vegan lifestyle, which has become more and more, it's not just a diet thing, it's a lifestyle.
It's a lifestyle.
Thing. Lifestyle.
Oh, yeah, it's not...
So let's start with veganism. It's different differentials to vegetarianism. Why you think it's become so popular and so interested by the black community here in Toronto?
You know, like everything else, I think we as black people tend to follow trends. And unfortunately, the trends usually come from somewhere else.
Madison Avenue,
Right.
LA.
What is
England.
happening? And it's a good thing that this trend is catching on in the black community. But when we look at it from a historical point of view, the plant-based lifestyle is our ancestral way of eating. In the old days, in West Africa,
You mean old pre-slavery?
yeah,
Okay, cool.
yeah,
That old.
yeah,
Real
the-
old school.
if the research shows that the diet of our pre-slavery ancestors was basically plant-based. You know, lots of grains and wheat and stuff like that. The meat was for special occasions.
Plus, it's not every time you go out hunting you're going to actually catch something and come
Exactly.
back. So if you don't catch something 5 days of the week, what are you eating?
Exactly.
Plant-based, right?
And meat was scarce. Plants were abundant. So when you look at the transition that we've made to eating meat as the major thing, you see that it comes in a kind of a societal thing where we now feel that we can afford meat. So instead of one little piece, we switched to having a big piece of steak, and vegetables are kind of on the side now.
More meat,
Right.
less
We have a big
vegetables
steak, and the
plants.
vegetables are now a side dish. In the old days, meat was the side dish. Right? Growing up in the Caribbean, the plate was rice, peas, vegetables, and a small piece of meat. I know in our household, my dad got the biggest piece of meat because he was the dad.
And he
right?
was,
He was the man.
Everybody
right?
give him a little piece of theirs
Right?
too, probably.
We as kids got a little piece of meat with lots of gravy on your rice, and that was it.
A mountain of rice too, by
Yeah,
the way.
you know, we had a lot of starch. Fruits were abundant. You could eat as many fruits as you want all day. You know, so those things, those are our roots. You know, no pun intended, but those are our roots. and we now have to get back to that to really be healthy.
But a lot of people see our roots, though, Joe. You're taking the conversation. I'm moving with you, man. I'm flowing with the Joe. You know what I mean? Because you really push the contentious thing that we're misguided on what our soul food is. That we only had access to the scraps during so-called slavery, right? Where it was the feet, like as in pig feet, the cow tongue, the thing, the pig innards. You know what I mean? The ears. You know what I mean? I remember growing up in Antigua where sometimes you have your rice and you're getting a piece of the pig. And it's like half of the pig face staring up at you, Joe, onto the plate, man. You know, we ate everything off of that pig.
Yeah, and we have to give.
But just to finish that, but those things now have become our soul food in a lot of places.
We have to give, we have to give our slave ancestors a bly on this one, as we say, right? Because what they got, they had to make the best of it. And as creative Africans, they made it tasty. They used all the seasonings that they could find, and they found ways to make it tasty, to make it not just palatable, tasty. And over the years, we grew up, that's what we grew up eating. And we never questioned it. It became our main staples, and we ate that every day, and we never questioned it because that is what our parents prepared for us.
And it was our 5-star menu, man.
Yeah. There was no question about the health part of it, how healthy it was, until now we have to look back and say, although it's a traditional food, it is not healthy food. We shouldn't be eating it. And we're seeing the effects of it, right? We're seeing our elders getting heart attacks and strokes and a whole lot of other things that are all food related. 90% of the diseases that exist right now are food related diseases.
And a lot of those go back to meat, flesh eating.
Of course. And even though in the old days, cows really ate grass, these days, what they're feeding the cows is not grass. Right?
Synthetics to pump them up to
they feed the
push
cows
process.
grain. A lot of it is corn, GMO corn. which of course has a whole lot of other stuff in it. So even if you ate meat in the old days, at least that meat was not as contaminated as the meat that we're eating right now.
It was better meat, a better cut of meat.
You have, I mean, the poultry that you get right now. In the old days, a chicken would take 3 months to be ready to go in the pot. Now it takes three weeks.
Speed up the process.
Yeah.
Capitalism can't wait.
Yeah.
You don't have enough time to develop.
Exactly.
I stopped eating tilapia. You know, I used to go to a lot of these Filipino places and
Yeah.
they do the fried. Loved it, man. Cheap and it's all cool and tasty and so on. Until I saw this little documentary, man, how they
I know the
factory
one.
farm the tilapia fish. Dude, they were swimming around in filth, their own feces, a whole bunch of things. They got this little thing. They should give them walks like dogs so they need to stretch out because they're in such cramped corners and so on.
Yeah, well,
it was nasty,
But
man.
the Chinese are very efficient, right? What they did.
I didn't mention anybody farming them, though.
No.
You getting another Chinese case?
No, what they did, they're very efficient. What they did, they had the chickens on the top, and they had the tilapia at the bottom.
So they're getting chicken.
So when the chickens drop their stuff, the tilapia is being fed.
Mercy, mercy, mercy.
Yeah.
I know it's tough. I mean, I was going to ask you why people still eat meat, but I still do myself occasionally.
It's not easy to quit when everywhere you turn,
It's there.
it's there. And it's, over the years, our taste buds have been corrupted, right? I have a friend who's a food scientist, and she explained to me, they prepare seasonings for McDonald's and, you know, all these other fast food places. And she told me that they actually prepare seasonings to make people addicted.
True.
To the
so
meat.
the amount of salt, the amount of certain things you put in.
Yeah, and they test. They have these taste testing sessions. So they would invite you to come to their place. They have a nice big restaurant, like a cafeteria area. You go in there, and they serve you chicken that is seasoned this way or seasoned that way, and they get you to tell them.
What works and what doesn't
Yeah.
work, yeah. Because I used to love me some Kentucky Fried Chicken, Joe. I'm sure you can't tell me you didn't love you some kind of bucket of Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Well,
and
I never really
sides.
liked Kentucky.
Know who you like?
Going back home to Trinidad, there was Royal Castle and another place called Honeycomb Chicken.
I love that name there. Was it as delectable as the name sounds?
Yes.
Oh, gosh.
They seasoned the chicken with honey, honey and garlic, and I mean, you pass there and you have to go in and buy it.
Oh, gosh.
You had to go in and buy this chicken. As a matter of fact, in my early days, when I switched to plant-based, I fell off the wagon. The year 2, I fell off the
course,
wagon
Joe, and-
because I went home for Carnival that year, and I couldn't resist.
Yes, so a mixture of nostalgia and your
Yeah.
taste bud getting that
Oh yeah, I
memory
couldn't
fix.
resist. You know.
Because for me, man, I stopped eating pork a while ago, you know, being influenced by Rasta and the politics and so on, and deaders and all that business, right? So, and then they got me sick one time violently, and I say I stopped eating pork. But 2 and 3 years or so after stop eating pork officially, Joe, a friend of mine used to have his birthday and New Year's Eve around there, 1st or 2nd, depending on what's going on, and the guy cooked a wicked sauce. Pig knuckles for y'all who don't know what sauce is. Look, and I would be at the party. Officially stopped eating pork long time, right? But we worked out a system. He would say to me at one point, Clifton, there's a phone call for you, you can take it in the bedroom. Joe, I go into the bedroom, my sauce is in the second drawer of his little medicine chest thing. Slurp up, and there's a soundtrack that goes with sauce, right? And man, it took me 2 years plus to get off of sauce itself. So as an ex-meat eater, because you know some people say I always never eat meat. you must really crave like it just the chicken. What else do you crave, Joe? In a quiet moment, honestly to
No,
yourself.
you know what?
Come on,
It has
man.
been so long that I really don't crave any type of meat.
No?
No. As you were mentioning sauce. You know the magic in sauce is not the meat.
Is the seasoning, then?
Yeah.
Is this
Is that lemon
exactly.
and the black pepper. So there's a vegan version,
I like the way that sounds, the
right?
vegan version.
There's a
Yeah.
vegan version of it, and they make it with what we call green fig. And you taste that and you realize, wait a minute, what I really like about sauce was not the meat, was, as we say, the waters.
Because that's like me with, I ran out of syrup for some pancakes one time and put on honey, brown sugar and everything. It wasn't the same, and I realized that what I like about pancake is not the pancake, it's the syrup.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So Joe, you must be energized, I was saying earlier, by the heavy turnout at the vegan festival. So are black folks going vegan then?
Um,
Because I notice a lot of restaurants, for instance, here in
Yeah,
Toronto,
I-
have sprung up vegan and vegetarian restaurants all over places.
Judging from the people that are joining my group, I would say yes. I wouldn't say that they're going vegan in droves, but I think it's significant.
It's more than a drip.
I think, yes, it's a lot more than a drip. And I think it's not just going vegan. I think we are becoming more conscious of what we eat. You know, because when you see all these documentaries, you know, like What the Health and all these different documentaries, if you sit and you watch those really consciously, it's very hard for you not to want to make a change in
I'm
what
telling
you
you,
eat.
it's scary sometimes. I mean, you see the things they do with meat, where they do these behind-the-scenes thing where the old meat, the expired meat, they throw some blood on it and pop it up, and then, you know, and next thing you know, it's brand new.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, there's about a year ago, there was this story where meat that was scheduled for the dumpster in the States was sold to some company in Trinidad. They discovered this was like 5 to 10-year-old meat that was frozen. Now again, think about it. That seasoning that they have down there,
Can kill anything. Damn.
they season, particularly around carnival time like now, you don't know what you're eating down there if you're eating meat. Like, it could be 5-year-old, and then again, they don't check, they can't check everything coming in. Same like here, only about what, 20% of food coming into Canada really gets checked.
But hold on, sorry. It's new to me, Joe. I'm sorry. There's 5-year-old meat out there
Yes, of course.
and 10-year-old meat.
Yes,
Doing what?
being frozen. They have it frozen. Once it's thawed out and seasoned, you can't tell the difference.
True. Yeah.
You know, and you know, deep fried,
Oh gosh.
or even worse, crushed up in as part of a burger.
Oh gosh. Because I don't buy. I saw a thing talking about one of the tricks with the old meat is that then they'll only do the blood and so on, but then they'll actually go on to season it. So it's like pre-seasoned meat, which is like covers up all of the
Yeah,
stuffing.
yeah. Most of these meat factories, they don't throw away any part of the animal. Right? What you don't get as a chicken leg is browned up in your burger. The amount of additives that they add to this stuff, right? And this is not off the top of my head. This is research that I've done when I was writing my book. It's scary.
Yeah, we'll get to the book a little later on because you do cover a number of things in there. So you left Toronto. You had started on this pathway. You went to the States. You came back to Toronto and you got more involved. How did it develop your connection and involvement with the Toronto Black Vegans?
I came back here and I was looking around for a group that, you know, a black group that was either vegetarian or vegan, and I couldn't find any. So I started one.
Exactly. If not now, when? If not who, you. I mean, if not you, who?
Yeah, and I was quite happy to see the response. At first, I thought I'd get maybe about 10, 15 people, and the first meeting I had close to 40 people, and it has grown since.
What are your numbers now, if you don't mind me asking you?
The Facebook group now I think is about 365, and then the meetup group is another 400, I think.
So how did you go about organizing, though? I mean, because organizing is not easy. I mean, because a lot of people say they're involved, they want to be involved, especially in these social media age where you can signify on Facebook or on any social media platform and say, I like, or I'm coming. And I had to say to a cat one time, no, you're not. The gig is in Toronto. You're in Nanaimo, BC. So people say, and then you have 500 people say they're coming.
Yeah.
Maybe 5 might show up, right? So what were some of the tricks of your trade, in terms of best practices for people who are organizing, particularly in the food security area?
Well, the main thing that you have to recognize is that whatever organization you start, you're going to have a core of people who are going to be regulars. You have 500 people who are signed up, and you might have 25 who are regulars.
The hardcore, as it were.
That still exists in my group. The difference is, like Sunday, when you put something out like that and you get a whole lot of people come and enjoy it because of the way it was marketed, really as a fun day to experience delicious Caribbean and African, vegan feast of African and Caribbean foods. That curiosity also brought a lot of people out saying, well, how can they make, Caribbean food without meat? Or how can they make African food? I want to go and taste this thing. And they came and they loved it because, as I said, most of the food sold out.
Wow. So, but go on, though. You ain't finished explaining to me, though, how you got people.
Again,
round robins on the phone, regularity in meetings, because sometimes people end up hating to go to meetings because they take so long or they're disorganized, nobody's taking minutes. Or
well, one of the things, again, if you're organizing, if you have a group around food, when you have a meeting, you have to have food.
Nice. That's a good one there. That's a good one, though.
So almost every meeting we have, there's some vegan food there. Something new to taste or something new to try.
And some of your members then will be bringing those so everybody get the idea of what everybody else does.
Exactly.
Yeah, nice.
And, we do potluck or, I try to arrange to have food there at almost every meeting.
Well, you had a thing too called Black Vegans Lunch and Learn.
Yes.
Run through that and how that, because that seems to me a perfect example of what you're talking about here.
Yeah, initially we started out having these meetings where we'd have a lunch session and we'd also have discussions on veganism or have a lecture or a talk by myself or somebody else. We start off with a talk and then we'd have a general discussion. But again, we're having it while we're eating, So we'll be talking about, for instance, if you like chicken wings, right? We have some cauliflower wings that you'd be wondering, is this really cauliflower?
Yeah.
Like Sister Amina, she does a mean cauliflower wing, and we have that at the meeting and people say,
how did you do that?
It's guilt-free because it's nutritious.
Yes.
Right? You could eat as much as you want of it. It tastes just like chicken wings. For those who still want, those who are in transition. I have no problems with people doing it in transition, but if you're going to do it consistently, then that's a problem because you end up gravitating more towards junk vegan food, which is another big issue right now.
Explain that to me too, because a lot of times you'll see vegetarians, or you go to a vegetarian section in a regular, so-called regular supermarket and so on. You'll see they have a vegetarian section where it'll be like veggie burger, veggie wing, veggie thing, and you go and you look at the ingredients to see what it is and so on. First of all, I was saying to myself, why would you want a burger if you're no longer eating burgers, right? or a veggie hot dog. That's the worst one for me, really, the veggie hot dog. Okay.
But all those things are fine in transition because it's difficult to stop eating meat cold turkey. You know,
I like that. Cold turkey, yeah.
yeah, yeah. I didn't even think about
Dig,
that.
dig, dig. Yeah. You're popping today, Joe.
But yeah, the transition is fine. But what I find for some people is that they feel it's guilt-free for them to just eat a substitute, right? So instead of the
A
regular
veggie-
burger, you have a veggie burger, or you have a veggie hot dog. And this is where I see the lineups at some of these vegetarian festivals. You see the long lineups for people wanting to buy a veggie burger or a veggie hot dog. And that's, to me, that's the junk food part of it.
Seeing.
Fried foods are not good on a regular basis. You know, occasionally fine. But the direction I see a lot of these vegetarian and vegan festivals going is in that direction, the fast food direction. And that's something that I want us not to, I don't want us to emulate that at all. You know, in our group, we want to make sure that what we're preparing is wholesome and it's truly nutritious, not a lot of oil and all that other junk that they put into
And not-
processed food.
Not mimicking the mainstream, because ultimately, if you keep on going that way, I mean, you'll be offering veggie pork chops.
Yeah, I'm
and
sure somebody.
veggie ribs.
I'm sure somebody is doing it.
That's right.
Yeah, and what is happening too? Again, these big companies are following the money. Purdue, which is one of the biggest chicken producers in the United States, they bought out one of the biggest. Yeah, they bought out one of the biggest vegan producers, vegan product producers.
So they're diversifying and keeping up with
Yeah, they're following the money. They have the
trends,
money.
the trends and so on. You talk about in some of the things you've written about superfoods and the importance of superfoods, their nutrients, how much they take care of business, things like avocado, cucumber, cilantro, cassava, and so on. Because one of the things about eating a better eating lifestyle, you know, is the cost, especially when you get into organic foods. And the better the food is, it seems as if the higher the price is, right? So the relationship between superfoods and what a lot of people have a reticence in terms of diving deep into vegetarianism, veganism, organic food and so on, is the price. Because you can get, your money have legs when you go to some of them stores, them cheap stores. You get a lot of food for cheap money compared to, you know, the 2 grocery bags you might get at the health food store. How do you square that against that?
Okay, that's a big challenge, and that's one of the challenges that we are taking on, taking head on with the farm. Because the plan with this farm up in Alliston is to grow food and offer that food to our community at a price that is either lower or better, well, either lower or the same as the non.
You're joking.
I'm serious.
I like that strategy. I like that strategy.
I'm serious because I did the figures. We can grow kale and other products like that. We could grow those and sell it at a price better than Whole Foods or Trader Joe's. Well, they don't have Trader Joe's here, but in the States. Because our cost, or labor cost, again, this is where the volunteer labor comes in. Or labor costs can be reduced because of that, right? But on the other hand, I think we have to also think about what is more important. Should we spend $200 on a pair of sneakers, or should we take that money and buy good food? Because we tend to buy cheap food and expensive clothes.
Yeah, true.
You
And
know,
cars and
we do
stuff.
that. We
Yeah.
do it. You know, not singling out people, but there are people who will get their hair done and on their way home go to McDonald's. You know, they spend maybe $200 to get their hair done or whatever, and eat McDonald's. You know, you see kids with expensive Michael Jordan sneakers, and what are they eating? What are they drinking? You know, you can't expect high performance from your body if you're putting cheap fuel in it. You know, and sooner or later your body breaks down. It might be when you're young, you have all the energy, and you could get away with it. But when you get older, like I am, you start to pay the price.
But how do you get to that too? I mean, because so many other areas where people identify misdirections and so on in terms of priorities, how do you redirect that though? I mean, you've got all these people who came to the festival, but there are so many other people who didn't, right? And
Yeah.
who are still going to those other places and buy the cheap food. How do you get those folks to buy into this?
Well, it's ongoing. Hopefully, those who came to the festival, the reports are going back to their family and their friends saying, you know, I went to this vegan festival and I was surprised that the food tastes so great and it was nutritious. The next one we have, we'll most likely have more people coming. It's an ongoing thing. It's not going to, you know, it's not like we wake up
not a quick
tomorrow
fix.
morning.
It's not a quick
no,
fix.
it's definitely not a quick fix. It's years we've been eating like this,
True.
you know, and we eat for texture and taste. We've been eating like that for a long while. There's a particular way we expect food to feel in our mouth, and there's some flavors and stuff like that that we want. You want that, like you talked about the sauce earlier. You know, things like that. We want. That's what we're looking for. And if you can't get it, then that food is not going to be enticing. So it's a long, drawn out process, but I'm up for the fight.
All right, and I'm intrigued certainly by this the farm out in Alliston there, and if you will, what is the strategy though? What is the how far away is Alliston from Toronto?
It's an hour and 15 minutes.
Hour and 15 minutes, not too far. It takes me longer to get to some places in Scarborough and the TTC and this down here. So what's the strategy in terms of like one, what kind of crop will you be planting and so on? What's the distribution process of it and so on? And thirdly, maybe even more importantly, how do you manage your personnel from here and to go an hour to your volunteer core people to do this? Because we know it takes a lot of tendering to bring crops to fruition. It's not just you plant it and everything takes care. Everything is not a mango tree or a coconut tree. You know what I mean? So on those two things, if you can remember them, I just can't remember them already.
All right, so in terms of the personnel to go to the farm, we're going to have carpooling from Toronto. We have pickup centers from Toronto to take them up. We have a lodge up there that could sleep 18 people. So we will do some overnighting on a weekend. People can come up Friday or come up Saturday. It's like a weekend retreat for some people. Of course, you're gonna get lots of
Nice touch.
lots of vegan food. You know, fresh air. You bring your kids. You know, so it's like a free retreat, but we're gonna work here.
Dig. Yeah.
You know?
It's for the greater good.
Yeah. In terms of the crops, we're going to do what we call square foot planting, right?
Explain that.
Okay, square foot planting is where you have a grid on a bed, a 4x8 bed, raised bed, and in each square foot, you know exactly how many plants you can have there, right? The setup is going to be very non-green thumb friendly. People who say, well, I don't have a green thumb, it's going to be easy to grow because we have the whole set up, and we have beds, and in between the beds, we have, the farm has a lot of wood, a lot of trees. So we're going to get wood chips so that moving around the beds would be easy and safe for kids, for old people, people in wheelchairs. So that setup, you can see what your produce is going to be like. And somebody like, like Zola would know.
From the African food basket.
Yeah, would know about all of that kind of setup. But I want to make it easy for people and encouraging for people to come there. Right? We have a big area where we can picnic outside. So it's not going to be just the kind of drudgery of working on the farm. It's going to be...
It's a whole weekend combination of work, spa, a hangout, holiday.
And, we're going to have vegan chefs preparing food on different weekends. So you're going to get a chance to eat maybe a nice 3 or 4 course vegan meal, and then you go back out to work for a couple of hours, relax for the evening. So it's not going to be, like you're on the farm and you sweating all day. We're going to try to make it, you're going to be working. There's no question about it. You can't get away from it. If you're on a farm, you're going to be working. But we're trying to make it much more of a
adventure.
Of an experience, particularly for kids.
Well, you were mentioning, I had to ask you about, because one of the big things about farming is the work you have to put in, and it rains, and those pesky weeds, right? So how does the square foot program you mentioned and other techniques you're going to apply will reduce the possibility of the inevitability of these weeds coming in, which take up so much of your time?
Okay, so with the square foot planting, what we do, you put down cardboard first. After you clear the land, you put down cardboard, and then you put the organic soil on top of it. That cardboard takes about 3 months to decompose.
And then with that, you nullify the weeds.
Exactly. And by the time, by the time those weeds start coming up, you can pick those out without any problems. And your crop has grown. 3 months is about an average time for a fairly good crop to grow.
Man, it sounds easy like peasy, Joe. You make it sound easy like
No,
peasy.
it's just research. It's not easy.
So the types of the crop that you'll be into too, and then after that, distribution. I know you say you're going to give it away to so and so, but get into
no,
that
we're not going to be giving it away. One of the main ways we're going to distribute it is through what we call a CSA. What that is community-supported agriculture, where people in the community would actually pay up front to get whatever again, African Food Basket was doing it.
Yeah, number of things around the city do that kind of program,
But in our community now, we're looking to do that. So you pay $200, $300, and every week or every other week,
you get your basket of
whatever we reap. Whatever we reap that week, that's what you get.
Nice.
Right? Other than that, again, my plan is to get all the fruit growers, the African fruit growers, the black fruit growers.
Because there are a number of groups around town. There are 3 or 4 groups
where we can have a farmer's market, literally black farmer's market, where people will know that every weekend you can come there and you get food from the African Food Basket, from the Brandon Street Farm, and at the event on Sunday, there's another guy who is a farmer out in I think it's Kitchener, and he was saying he wanted to be in contact with us too. He's willing to come down here with his crop, with his harvest, So that's the kind of linkages, and as long as we start that, I'm sure we'll discover other people out there growing that would want to do that.
And with the burgeoning numbers of your organization, the Toronto Black Vegans, you already have a market there,
Yeah.
right there. So you spread out from that.
Yeah.
Wow. So what kind of
Well, some of
crops would you?
we're
Give me a
looking
list
at
of some of the things that be
something
available.
that are culturally significant or culturally relatable. We do the okra and the collard greens and the callaloo, you know. But outside of that, again, we want to grow stuff that we know is the most nutritious food for us. So while it might not be something that we eat culturally, it's something that we have to introduce. Because, you know, people say, I don't like kale, I don't like this,
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
right? Moringa. you know.
Moringa is that the bitter melon?
No,
what's-
the
what's-
moringa is a tree, and you use the leaves. They have a pod that you can use the seeds from too. It's one of the most nutritious things, and it grows without much maintenance. Right? I want to experiment with growing that here. It really grows in real hot places. But you can grow it after about the first 3 weeks. You can start harvesting the leaves. Right? So I'm looking at if I can grow it, say, from July to August. You know, a good crop, and we have a lot of land up there to do that.
So here's a problem I can see, right? And not just to talk about problems, but for instance, if I'm getting a weekly, if I subscribe and I'm getting a weekly basket, a weekly box of food, right? How can you assure have you thought of me getting bored of 3 weeks of the same 4 or 5 things that are available just based on what you have at that time? I already have this. So, for instance, what steps can you take to assure that I'm getting all of the time, a diverse basket of food that maybe even some of the things that you might not even produce?
That's one of the most common challenges that all CSAs have. Those in the States, those here. And it's something that you have to really plant to suit, right? So you know, there are some staples that, like for instance, kale, you know, you can use kale in several different ways, right? Okra, but you also have to be able to add different things to that food basket every week. In some cases, you might have to get it from another farm, right?
Not a bad idea.
You know, I might have to check African Food Basket to see what they have that I could make my basket different, and vice versa, right? That's why I'm looking for more a cooperative approach to this rather than a competitive approach. You know, because I don't think we could ever grow enough food for everybody that would need this food.
True.
I don't think any one of us could do it. So I think if we work together, which is the way I see it, the benefit is there. And the market is there. There's no question about the market, right? It's for us, as you were asking earlier on, it's for us to get the food, grow the food, and get it to these people in a convenient way. Because we know that they're not going to make any great effort to come to get the food from us. We have to get the food to them. That is a challenge that we have to work on.
That's certainly another challenge. Didn't even talk about that in terms of the transportation and distribution. And of course, people can go to your website, the Toronto Black Vegan website, to get a list of all of those. But how do people get a part of that who might not be members of the organization right now, but they want to want to help you up at the farm in Alliston?
Yeah, well, we have on the Black Community Support group on Facebook. They have about maybe 20,000 people, right? We put it out there. There's the Black Business Facebook group too. And a lot of it is going to be word of mouth, you know, because it is basically something that we're doing for the Black community. We're not putting it out there in the general media. It's more networking with Black groups. because it's needed in our community. You know, we're not saying that we're not going to sell to anybody else, but we want the people within our community to get the first chance at what we grow. Right? So if we have a market, we have a public market, anybody can come, but at the same time, we're encouraging people within our community to be the first to come.
Time is ticking away at us, Joe. Let's talk about how you came to write your book here. Let food be your medicine today. Live healthy and strong and plant-based whole foods. And some of the ideas you tackled in here, Joe.
Because I've been doing this for years, I've had a lot, people keep asking me questions. And I got to the point where I said, you know what, I should put a lot of the things that I talk about in a book. So now when people ask me, I will tell you, well, read my book.
Yep. Get the book, baby. Available at Amazon.com, y'all, and here at a different booklist community center here in Toronto. Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, so it's really a compilation of my own narrative, my own life, my own experience. And it focuses a lot on the superfoods, the foods that we know from growing up that are good for us. Now the science is catching up, and the science is explaining why it's good for us. And in my book, I have a list there that you go down that list, and there's no way that you could go down that list and not find a whole lot of stuff that you can eat or that you have been eating. What I do there, I tell you what it's good for, what you get from it. You know, you've been eating red beans, you've been eating, you know, callaloo and okra for years, and you just know it's good for you, but you don't know why it's good for you. And I document that in my book.
How's that been going? How's the public been receiving the book?
Yeah, it's going quite well. I have a book signing on Sunday up at the Pickering
Flea Market. I see that happening. Nice.
Yeah.
You've been moving around, and just as you said about the big festival, the vegan festival just happened. That it's not just about food, and that there were only. I was surprised that there weren't as many restaurants representing there, but because people are doing butter. Vegan butter, scones, baked goods, they're doing snacks, skincare, honey substitute.
Yeah.
So the idea of vegan enterprise goes way beyond just, as I say, cooked food, or even in the case of those raw foodies, raw food.
Yeah, I mean, we covering the full spectrum of food. You say food, and we say, okay, we have nutritious. You know, we have the nutritious version, because a lot of the stuff that's out there is not really food.
And Joe, you are also the brother of Mutadi. Mutadi's Drummers Festival happens every year for the last decade plus and so on. And there's an event coming up on the 23rd for Mutadi here. And I see you there. You've been at the festival. You've been helping out too. So if you will, what's been the impact of your brother, Mutadi, on the scene here in Toronto? Because even before the drumming, or even with the drumming, Studio 12 was, after I was joined, that I saw an establishment that Mutadi used to run here in Toronto. What's been his impact in your mind on the scene in Toronto?
Well, 20 years ago, I wouldn't even talk about, I mean, that after hours thing was a fun thing. But 20 years ago, he came up with the idea of moving the drum from the back of the stage to the front of the stage.
Of course.
And the first year, we had maybe about 10 groups. The first festival was at Queen's Park.
Oh, yeah.
And that has grown to now we have about 30 groups. This is our 20th year.
You're doing 2 days too, right?
Yeah, we always do 2 days. What has happened over the years is that it has just grown in popularity. And every year we try to celebrate a different region of the world. Last year we did Africa. This year we're doing the Caribbean. Mutadi has brought people from all cultures together. You know, he's been like a magnet, bringing all these people together. And at the festival, you've been there.
Oh, yeah.
You know, people just come, and people from all walks of life, all cultures, and they're united by one thing: the drum.
The drum. I remember when he bought them, the first time he bought those Japanese kodo drummers, them
Yeah.
big ass drums, man.
Yeah.
Wow, that was electrifying.
Yeah, they're still there. They're still there. Yeah, so he's been honored, and rightly so.
Of course.
You know, for all the work that he's done over the years, and I'm proud of him. I came back here from, the reason why I'm back here in Toronto is because he has Parkinson's, and I came back to take care of him. You know, because
And he still drums though, man. I see him drumming.
no, he
He
can't.
stopped. He stopped.
Yeah,
No,
he
stopped. No, I
can't.
saw him
Unfortunately,
a little
he-
while ago, he was still
yeah,
kicking it. Yeah.
unfortunately, he can't drum as, you know, but we've always been very close. And I remember from very early, my mother told us that we have to look out for each other, and that's what we've been doing for years. You know, there are times when he had to look out for me, and now it's my turn to look out for him. We've been back and forth over the years, you know, and that's it.
Nice, man. And Joe, I want to thank you, man. Last words to the folks out there, you know, that certainly looks like vegan, vegetarianism, black-wise and otherwise, is getting more and more popular. It's on an upward swing, and certainly exemplified by your success recently at your big event. What do you have to say to people then to get more people interested, or to let them know that it's something that they can do easily?
Yeah, first they have to see it, it's not a fad, right? It is a lifestyle, and it's an important lifestyle if you really want to live a healthy life, right? People are living longer now because they have all these medications, and right? But that's not really living, that's existing, you know? Some people are just happy to get up in the morning, but you get up and your head spinning and your body aching. That is not living, right? And until you switch to this lifestyle, you wouldn't realize how much you're missing out on in terms of just living, just enjoying life. And it's not that hard. And you don't have to be a vegan instantly. I prefer to encourage people to be more plant-based. Look at what you're eating every day. Make it more plants, more grains, more nuts, more seeds, and do it at your own pace. You know, as I say in our group, we try to lovingly and respectfully encourage our family and friends to adopt this lifestyle.
Thank you so much. This has been Joe Thomas from Toronto Black Vegan. His latest book is Let Food Be Your Medicine Today. Live healthy and strong on plant-based whole foods. I'm Clifton Joseph, and this has been another edition of Soil to Soul, a joint project between the African Food Basket and the Different Book List Cultural Center right here, live from a Different Book List in Toronto. Thank you. See you next time. Right on.